I'm sorry.
Who will be competing in the first leg in St. George's this afternoon. The Peppercorn ceremony forms part of the state visit to the town of St. George by His Excellency, the Governor of Bermuda, Mr. George Ferguson. The traditional ceremony that you will see today began in 1816 when the official seat of the government of Bermuda was moved from the old town of St. George to the city of Hamilton. Before the ceremony commences, I would like to give you some historical background of how the ceremony evolved into what is now an elaborate affair. The Freemasons' Lodge St. George is the oldest Scottish lodge operating outside of Scotland. It is also the oldest continually operating lodge in Bermuda. It was given its charter by the Grand Lodge of Scotland in 1797. It has been operating in the town of St. George since that date and only found a permanent home in 1816 when it was granted the use of the State House. The State House is the oldest known stone building in Bermuda and is constructed out of cut blocks of the local limestone held together with turtle oil and lime, which was the mortar commonly used at the time. The State House is situated behind the town hall. It is the two-story white building on the hill. The building was constructed in 1620 and has been the venue for many official functions such as the law courts, Governor's Council Chamber and the House of Parliament. The council held one of its first meetings there during the reign of King James I, who ruled England from 1603 to 1625, during the golden age of Elizabethan literature and drama, which saw contributions from figures such as William Shakespeare and John Donne. In 1815, the town of St. George ceased being the capital of Bermuda, and, unwilling to allow the building to fall into decay or disrepair, the governor of the day, Sir James Coburn, assigned for the Freemasons of Lodge St. George to assume responsibility for the maintenance in exchange for its use. To legalize the arrangement, a deed was given to the Freemasons of Lodge St. George to hold the State House in free and common soccage at and under the yearly rent of 1 peppercorn. The peppercorn is a small dried berry of the pepper plant, still commonly used in pepper mills. The peppercorn is a nominal rent, and according to the terms of the original lease, the peppercorn was due at the feast of St. John the Divine. This has been changed to fall on St. George's Day, or the Wednesday closest to St. George's Day, in honor of the patron saint from whom the old town derives its name. The governor of Bermuda will officiate at today's ceremony, and it is now customary that he meets with the cabinet in the old State House immediately following the ceremony's conclusion. Following the arrival of His Excellency, he will inspect the guard of honor provided by the Bermuda Regiment. Then the Mayor of St. George will make an address of welcome, to which the governor will then reply. In a scripted exchange that survives from the early days of this ceremony, His Excellency will then demand the payment of 1 peppercorn and receive in exchange a receipt, noting that the rent has been paid. His Excellency, along with the Premier and members of the Cabinet, will then be preceded to the State House by the Master of Lodge St. George, who holds the keys to the house, which is then made available for the meeting of Governor's Council, thereby upholding the conditions of the lease. The peppercorn ceremony was held infrequently in its early days, and the rent was only paid when there were elections or inquiries into shipwrecks on Bermuda's reefs. No rent was paid from 1916 to 1942, but in that year, 26 peppercorns were turned over to the governor of the day. Since that time, the ceremony has been held annually, following the same format that you will see today. The peppercorn is officially received by the Acting Accountant General of Bermuda, Miss Crystal Burgess. The Guard of Honor and Keepers of the Guard are furnished by the Bermuda Regiment, which is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. The regiment was formed in 1965 with the amalgamation of 2 of its predecessor units, the Bermuda Militia Artillery and the Bermuda Rifles, formerly the Bermuda Volunteer Rifle Corps. These units were first formed in Bermuda in the 1890s. At the conclusion of today's ceremony, the Bermuda Regiment will be granted the freedom of the town of St. George's by proclamation of the Mayor. This is an ancient honor dating back to Roman times, which is being granted today in appreciation of the 50 years of dedicated service provided by the regiment to the town and citizens of St. George's. The regiment will celebrate this freedom with a parade through the town, followed by a reception. We hope you enjoy today's ceremony, and we now await the arrival of the band and Guard of Honor. Today, the parade commander is Major Lorenzo Raddery. The colour party stands between the two guards and is commanded by the senior ensign, Lieutenant Adobe, who carries the Queen's colour on your left as you face the guards. He is assisted by the junior ensign, Lieutenant Dakin, who carries the regimental colour on your right as you face the guards. The escorts to the colours are Sergeant Major Rebane, Colour Sergeant Williams, and Colour Sergeant Smith, along with the Regimental Sergeant Major, Warrant Officer Class 1, Gavin Ray. Number 1 Guard is commanded by Lieutenant Stevens, with right marker Sergeant Major Durham and left guide Sergeant Hartman. Number 2 Guard is commanded by Lieutenant Emerson, with right marker Colour Sergeant White and left guard Sergeant Simmons. Most of the soldiers on parade today are in their first year of service. They have been undergoing intensive training in preparation for today's parade under the instruction of their Company Sergeant Major, Chauncey Durham. Finally, the band and corps of drums of the Bermuda Regiment are under the command of the Director of Music, Major Dwight Robinson, and the Drum Major, Sergeant Huey. They, like the troops on parade, are almost all part-time members of the regiment who volunteered or were conscripted into the Bermuda Regiment. We now await the arrival of the dignitaries.